So strategy options for the manager, the product manager, the market manager, etc. Mark's going to cover some of this in a summary slide, but let me just mention now that basically, remember those 9 factors? Turns out there's 9 things that it takes to successfully go to market. Please don't leave the room saying, Michael said the 4 Ps aren't any good. Because the 4 Ps are okay, they are. But the 4 Ps came out of a world of mainstream consumer products company marketing. 4 Ps being product, price, what else was it? Promotion, and place. They worked hard on the place one to get a P. P is really channel, distribution, etc. Then they got place. Okay. We do that too. We force some things like that. Okay. The 4 Ps, turns out that none of the 4 Ps talk about who the customer is. You go, yeah, but don't forget the 4 Cs. Well, the point is, these 9 here, in this order that says, ultimately, no matter where we are in the adoption curve, we need to be really clear on who we're aiming at and who we're not aiming at. And that each one of these 9 are an integral part of a go-to-market strategy. Now, we have a few stories that we won't share with you tonight by company name, where companies come in and say, hey, Michael, I heard you and Mark and Jeff and others, you do this work on positioning and messaging. We need some help on that. And we go, yeah, we do consulting engagements. We'd be happy to help you with that. And in the next breath, we say, but there's some other key questions you probably have already addressed if you're looking for help in position, like who the target customer is, what their compelling reason to buy is, blah, blah, blah. They go, now, we thought these first 7 were kind of hard. We thought we'd start with the positioning and messaging and then work our way. Doesn't work that way. Even though life is not linear, if you start with this one, but what are the odds of you having a clear, compelling story about why buy your product when you don't know who you're targeting, you don't know why they're buying, you don't know what they're willing to pay and who the competition is? It's like, just surrender now. And so these 9 are really the crux of any great go-to-market strategy. And our favorite ones on this list, they're all favorite children in some ways, these 9, but a couple of favorite ones, that compelling reason to buy is not why buy your product. It's why switch from my current category, a gasoline-powered car, to an electric car. Or from a normal wristwatch to a IoT, ever, always connected, monitoring device. This is why switch to the new category. Down here, it's if you're going to switch, why buy ours? That makes sense? Really, 2 questions. If I don't want to switch, not buy your product either. Whether it's 3D in theater, whether it's wearables, whether it's cloud computing, it's compelling reason to switch from on-premise to a Dropbox, as a simple example on cloud. And so all 9 of these matter deeply. And as it turns out, and we've been learning more about this the last 5 and 7 years, is ultimately each one of those 9 areas will vary depending on where and what stage you're in. So for example, and we'll go through this very briefly, and I'll turn it over to Mark, turns out that in early market, the target customer is this. The visionary LOB, or functional executive. Now that's LOB, line of business, not SOB, but you get the this means somebody in a department who's running, for example, a customer service organization in a large financial company like a Fidelity or a company like that, or a functional executive in the chief customer relationship officer or the chief sales officer, something like that, who has a business problem that perhaps CRM could solve. And they're looking for something pretty amazing, which is specific breakthrough, leap forward solutions. And so each one of these areas will differ, and one of the most important parts is when you say, we're an early market, we think we're deciding we're going to sell it through the web. If you're in a B2B business, no, you're not. If it's truly early market, an old-fashioned, consultative, evangelistic, direct sales force is probably the way to go. Later, we'll see the web to be a great place to do channel development and channel work. But in early market, it truly is a much more high-touch environment. Bowling alley, it's the pragmatist. Typically a department manager or the pragmatist consumer at home. And here, basically, it's very application-centric. It's, can you help us solve a specific pain point that we have? But each one of these 9 is slightly different, the keys that you would hit on the piano for those. And the positioning is not, can we solve world hunger? Can we hit the market and dominate the whole thing? It's, could you please freaking dominate a segment before you think about dominating the whole market? And the reality is that every company that we've come across, every company on this list, who's dominant. They dominated a segment before they dominated a market. Even Facebook, right? They turn on the power and go, we're going to get 1.2 billion. They start with certain universities back east, Harvard, and then some other Ivy Leagues, and then Michigan and Texas. And there were no grandparents in the picture yet. That's when it became uncool to be on Facebook, obviously. When it's kind of friend you go, no, you can't. And you lose that argument, you get off Facebook. But the idea is Facebook was also looking at segments first before they got into the marketplaces. SAP, even FedEx and others as well. And so if we think through the segment leadership piece, our test of leadership is not do we feel like a powerful player, but in the segment that we're looking to go after, do we have greater than or equal to 40% share in that segment, and are we 2 times the size of the nearest competitor? If those two together are yeses, 40% or more in the segment, then we've been able to dominate the initial beachhead piece that we're going after. If you've got 20 and somebody else has 20, even if you have 40 and somebody else has 40, you're still not the second leader, because there's 2 people out there and customers love that. But there's 2 companies with 40% share. They go, wow, 2 great brands. I wonder which one's going to give me a better deal. And that's how they transact with many of those people. And so bowling alley, very different 9-point framework. And then tornado, here is basically drive to higher volume, lower touch. And this could actually be web, third parties, others to go along. And here it's basically a swap out of the old infrastructure for the new infrastructure. And the focus here is on standardized whole product, nothing weird. By the way, Apple really understands this. When the Apple iPad came out, and then the second iPad and the third iPad, and that was then at some point tornado, did you read the analysts going, oh my God, there's nothing exciting about the third iPad. It's just a little thinner, better battery life, some nicer retinal display, but no breakthrough. That's the point. If you're in tornado, there's a technical term I'm going to use, I think most of you will get this, is don't do anything stupid in tornado. Don't do anything weird, don't do anything disruptive. Because you're accumulating market share. And if you were to come out with a weird, new, holographic 3D iPad at a time when you're basically now selling for the first time in volume to your mainstream customers, you will disrupt the market and possibly throw it back earlier. So Apple really gets the idea of that innovation. In fact, the examples as we go through some of the lessons learned, tornado is the place where you either lose or gain a lot of wealth in your business. And then Main Street is oftentimes about end users. Better value with no risk. Here, you might need to start getting cost sensitive about your pricing and your channel. And the idea on Main Street is, it's not that life is over, it just means the hyper-growth period is over. So before I turn over to Mark, let me just ask one kind of annoying quiz question for you. And that is this. Is if we think of the adoption curve, is it possible that your company that you're working in today is in more than one of these places at the same time? What do you think? Remember what I said, is it possible? The answer is yeah. If you're at JP Morgan Chase, you've probably got financial offerings that are very mainstream, conservative, normal. Then you've got some breakthrough ways of addressing retirement planning. That might be very different, but that's over here. If you're NBC or CBS, there might be very different offers that you have about how you deliver the content, whether it's 3D or whether it's streaming online, whether it's Netflix or others as well as competitors. If you're a medical company, you probably have a whole portfolio as well. And that's good. Because all the stuff over here is paying the bills for all the expensive innovation over here. Does that make sense? So if you're only here, you're an elephant, dinosaur, whatever you want to call it. If you're only here, good luck. You better have some good venture money behind you because there's no funding coming from your cash flow business on Main Street. So great companies, whether it's an Apple or a Samsung or an Oracle, have a whole series of adoption processes across the stage. So that was kind of setting the template and the foundation for where we are with the overall life cycle discussion. What I'll do now is turn over to my partner in crime, Mark Cavender, who does a lot of work both in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. We'll talk to you about that too. And we're going to start with kind of the summary slide that says this is basically the game plan depending on what stage of life you're in. And of course there's nuances and adjustments you need to make. But the reality is your strategy will change depending on where you are and what life cycle stage you're in. So we better make sure we're on the right stage. That's all we can say.